Hey there, welcome to the Ryan Kingsline Show. My name's Ryan Kingsline, and in this podcast, we interview amazing artists, creatives, and creators to find out how they tick and how they got where they are today. So sit back, relax. I look forward to sharing their journey with you. All right, guys, thanks for joining me. I have with me Peyton Varney. Did I say that all correctly, Peyton?
Yeah, pretty much. You can say it Varney, but either way, it doesn't matter.
Varney. We can throw an accent in there.
Yeah, I guess
So
it's
tell me-
French.
That's okay. My last name, people always ask me, where's the last name Kingsline from? And I tell them it's a boat name because they, they just had this list when they came over and, immigrants. And they chose this, my Kingsline, sitting there on a list. What do you know?
Very cool.
So great to talk to you. Why don't we start with telling us where you are, what you do, all that good stuff. And then there's a couple of things I want to talk about with you. One, your career, how you trained, because you're relatively fresh in the position that you're in now. And at the same time, you've also done a fair bit of education and outreach and stuff like that. So there's a lot to talk about today. So why don't we start? What do you do now? Where do you work? What do you do?
Yeah, first off, it's definitely an honor to be interviewed, especially I guess this fresh in my career. But yeah, like Ron said, my name's Peyton. I grew up in Alabama and went to school down in Florida, actually, at Ringling College of Art and Design. And then my junior year, I did an internship with Insomniac Games, working on the Marvel Spider-Man that recently came out. And then after graduation, actually this past May, I applied to Naughty Dog and got a position there working full time as a texture artist on The Last of Us 2. So I've been at Naughty Dog for about 6 months now and enjoyed every second of it.
That's awesome, man. It's like you won the lottery, right?
Yeah, I'm very fortunate with the opportunities I've been able to have and, timing of everything.
Yeah, well, that's kind of what I wanted to talk about because, I don't believe in fortune. I'm sure you've worked your butt off and we're sitting here looking at your art station. And so what I really want to do is kind of unpack what you've done to get where you are so that can help somebody else who's looking to get that job as well. Because I know almost everybody I interview for the boot camp or for some of the different programs I've got, it's like Naughty Dog is right there. That's one of the big places to work. And you scored that right after an internship. So tell me, let's talk a little bit about your schooling and how that worked, and then we're going to kind of build up from there. So you went to Ringling, right?
Yeah. Ringling's a 4-year degree program to get your bachelor's.
Yeah.
I got a bachelor's in game art and design. And basically your first year is all like fundamentals. It's traditional because most people that go to Ringling actually have a traditional background. It's not just all digital. And then your sophomore year, junior year, and senior year is really where you dig into the digital side of things. Sophomore year, you learn a lot of the programs and the pipeline and just basically how game design works and game art works. And then junior year, you're kind of honing those skills, kind of starting to make like personal projects and try that out in actually like full environments. And then senior year, you actually can team up or you can be alone, but you make a thesis or a final project that you basically do everything from scratch, from original concepts and everything to the end, making a trailer and making it playable.
Did you do a lot of learning on your own, or were the classes sufficient for you?
The classes definitely help with learning some of the tools and stuff. But as you know, this industry is always transforming. And there's every month, there's a new program or there's a new technique or way to do something. So there's always a lot of personal ambitions and motivation that you have to do to really get to the top of knowing all that technology. And I think it's still important to also be practicing your traditional skills as well.
What do you mean by traditional?
Traditional for me would be like sculpting with clay, painting, drawing. Haven't done it within the last couple months just because of moving and job and everything. But I think a lot of what you see in environments can come from the real world, and especially ZBrush, which I know you're super familiar with. But actually having that traditional background of sculpting with clay will help you basically sculpting in ZBrush. But
Yeah.
yeah, I kind of looked at that too when I was trying to fix some of my weaknesses that I had. And like one of them, I noticed that I was lacking color in some of my environments my junior year. And so senior year, I took a advanced figure painting class with like oil paint and everything like that. And it
Yeah.
was it was with George Pratt, which is like really, really good
Oh,
artist.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And it definitely pushed my colors and a lot more. And I think you can see that in my thesis.
Okay, so then what does a day look like for you? So you go into work, you're, 6 months in on this gig. What do you do? Grab your coffee, go to your desk, walk me through this, just so people have a sense of what this is actually like.
Yeah, of course, you got to start with the coffee.
I got to
Yeah.
start with the coffee.
Yeah, I always have a coffee every morning. But besides that, yeah, it's pretty open, just making textures and texturing environments. Can't say too much about like what I'm texturing or anything like that. But yeah, just pretty much how you would do it for like a portfolio piece or
Uh-huh.
just a personal environment. You have to talk to a couple more people and you can't just, do it without asking. But yeah, like basically you're just texturing environments, making sure that you're working closely with designers, lighting artists, your modeler, because every texture artist is paired up with a modeler, and you're kind of like working that way. But yeah, it's very open and allows for a lot of creativity, I think.
So what does it mean, texture? This is one of the things that is constantly amazes me because it's probably one of the fastest developing kind of area of game arts is what's texturing. It used to be like what was modeling, and ZBrush came and ZBrush changed what modeling was. It was no
Mhm.
longer modeling, it was now sculpting. But now texturing is like, well, it's not photos. It used to be photo bashing, right?
Yeah.
What do you
Well,
do? What does it look like?
it can be. I think it varies
Okay.
at every studio. Texturing is more so the shader work and the texturing work to make an environment, sell like color wise, and each studio or each project will have a different, I guess, workflow for that because some engines or some projects might require more geometry just because the engine can handle more, or some other projects might can't like Unreal, sometimes has trouble with large amounts of geo. So I
Hmm.
think it's more of like a balanced workflow where you use both geometry and texturing. So it really, I guess, depends. And there's different ways around it for each thing. But yeah, I'd say texturing overall is just, really selling, I guess, the model of the piece.
And you're given a model, you're paired with a modeler, so your job is just to take it to the finish line. Is that an accurate assumption?
Uh, yeah. Well, you're there, not like model's not necessarily done,
Okay.
but you're working with the colors and you really need to. It's, I'm having trouble explaining it just because it's like a balancing act, bouncing back and forth between the two.
Uh-huh.
Because I think
Yeah.
modeling and texturing really play off of each other. And I don't think like you can't just, well, like with the marmoset or something, like that's a texture on its own, but that's not in an environment. And there's so many things that play into an environment that relay back to the texture, I guess.
Okay. So let's unpack that if you don't mind, because I think that's the thing that's, especially for my environment artists, that's the part that gets kind of tricky. It's like, what is it that, what do we put in the sculpt? What do we put in the model? So if I'm looking here at you have a workshop and it's a
Mhm.
1950s plain barn, right?
Yeah.
Number one, this looks like a painting. This is just gorgeous.
Thank you.
I love the sense of color in this. But before we get into the color and how you do that, because I see from your work, it all has this aesthetic. But if we're looking at just the planks, just the wood,
Hmm.
you know, is this something that's modeled? Is this something that's just entirely done in substance or Quixel or whatnot?
So it's actually a mixture. The wood ceilings and the rafts and the beams and all, those are actually
Hmm.
primarily ZBrush. And then I would bring those in and I would maybe make like a quick, I guess, texture in Designer, but it's
Okay.
primarily ZBrush and then bringing into Painter, getting AO and stuff. And then I think I bake those all into one sheet. So they actually are like a 0 to 1 thing. You
Okay.
can make it a lot more efficient. Like that was 2 years ago. So things that you might do now, I guess, for a larger production, like the beams and stuff, is
Mhm.
you could have that 0 to 1 information, maybe in a curvature or something, and then a normal map, and just keep those low. But the reason why you could have like a curvature and all is so you could have that edge wear, but you wouldn't necessarily want a base color to be a 0 to 1. So you could bring in like a tileable base color and a tileable normal map for the actual wood information. And
Okay.
with it being tileable, you'll get a lot more pixel density out of it than if it was on a 0 to 1 map. But you can use your normal and your curvature of your 0 to 1 to get some of those more distinct areas, kind of where you see like the dark indents and all.
Okay, great. But a good bit of this wood is just sculpted in ZBrush.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for the planks,
And
the ground is actually a flat plane with the texture applied. So I did different techniques for it.
okay, so we're looking down at the bottom. That's mostly some kind of substance or photo bash, right?
Yeah, that's a flat texture.
And okay, and then if we come up here to the top of that, then these are individual planks that you sculpted.
Yeah, and then I did a low poly basically. And I
Mhm.
think that the main reason why I did that is because with planks in a barn and all, they're pretty separated. And so I needed that light to be able to come through them. And that's why I needed separate
Mm,
planks. I think they're super low poly, but yeah, I did need that. And that wouldn't
right.
work if I had like
That's
a flat plane.
right. I got it. So you're making your decisions of, where you're going to invest your energy based on what some of the things that you're looking for in the image. So you were looking to have light streaming through the roof.
Hmm. Yeah, for sure.
You're not going to have light streaming through the bottom, so you might as well throw something flat on there and who cares, whatever.
Yeah, and the right wall over there too, where the windows are, I
Yeah.
think those are actually that's wood baked onto a flat plane as well. So it's not expensive everywhere. It's just expensive where I needed it.
All right. And then when you're building these roof pieces, are you thinking modularity? Are you just how important is modularity to this conversation? Or are you just kind of
Uh,
one off just doing 20 of these things?
no, so I think there was maybe like maybe 6 to 8 pieces for this whole barn structure, I guess. So, well, the ground was just a flat plane, so I don't know if that counts.
Okay.
But you have the windows are the same, just stamped across. And then I
Hmm.
had a long beam, and then I had a smaller beam, and then I did have like the brace beam. And then for the roof, I think there was a single modular roof piece, and it was like 4 by 4 meters or whatnot. And it was, I think it might have been like 8 planks. And I sculpted, high poly in there. And then as long as you make sure that your pivot point is correct, even if like
Yeah.
it doesn't snap, like, connect to each other, if you have the
Uh-huh.
pivot set up on that like 4 by 4 meters, wherever your planks are, they'll just stamp across.
Got it. And are you worried about if you see seams or anything between them or no?
Are you talking about where they connect on the ends?
Yeah, on the ends, exactly. Or are
Well,
they tiled?
the only seams that you would be able to see are covered up by the beam that's braced on them.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, because
Cool.
the other seam is just a crack, the light's coming through.
Okay. All right, I understand that. All right. Well, that's awesome. So thanks. So modularity, so you are working efficiently. You're trying to keep this as simple as humanly possible. You've got your 8 pieces and then you've got these planks on the wall and then on the floor. Those are all
Hmm.
just kind of stamped on there.
Yeah,
And then
especially
you've
with.
got, of course, all the yeah.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, especially with if you plan to ZBrush stuff, like, if this wasn't modular and I wanted to ZBrush all these pieces, that would just take forever. And so like
Yeah.
I was trying to also be like, time efficient, and it was like under like a, tighter deadline. So yeah, I was like, I think it would work much better if I were to make a modular set.
So what piece that got you your internship?
Basically, the only ones that I had in my portfolio before my internship was I think the Smoky Mountains biome and the workshop. And I think the workshop definitely helped a lot. Yeah, none of the protege was in there yet.
Okay, so let's talk a
But
little bit about your the Smoky Mountains because the Smoky so the workshop is interior and
hmm
you're doing a lot of modeling. The Smoky Mountains is all exterior, it's all outdoors, right? It's almost like world building. Very different skill sets. Are environment artists
yeah.
expected to do both?
Yeah, I would say mostly environment artists are expected to do both.
Okay.
When you get on larger teams, you might
Yeah.
have like an artist specifically for buildings or an artist specifically for foliage or something like that. As in like an average environment team, I would say that you're expected to, be pretty versatile in your environment creativity.
Beautiful work, man. I love the Smoky Mountains. So walk me through like what are some of the things that you have to do to create this? Because I think a lot of us we understand like modeling a
hmm
barn and wood and sculpting inside of ZBrush, but I think a lot of things get crazy when you start talking foliage, trees, rocks. I get water. What are some of the things that you have to do when you're thinking of building an outdoor scene like this?
I guess one thing really in the beginning would be collecting your reference and all that you
Mhm.
for the environment. For me, the Smoky Mountains, since I grew up in Alabama, the Smoky Mountains like run through Tennessee and all, but it was actually more so like a project that I guess hit more so to something that I connected with because it was somewhere that I went to when I was growing up frequently. And so I think that kind of goes back to finding inspiration for work too. And I think grabbing stuff from real life and capturing experiences and also just trying to create, an experience that you might have had or enjoyed. I think you can definitely see a lot more heart from an artist when you do something like that because you're trying to put story into it or you have this deeper connection than just going on Google and typing in like a birch forest or something like that.
Right.
But yeah, I had never done an exterior environment. So with this one, it was basically, I knew I wanted to do, I had it in my mind that I wanted to do like this river in the Smoky Mountains. It was kind of one that I like pictured where I used to go or whatnot. And so I started with the block out, found a bunch of reference from Smoky Mountains,
Okay.
thought about what I would be able to achieve and what I couldn't achieve.
So what are some of those things that you decided? So what is some of the things you couldn't achieve?
For for this one, I thought that since I hadn't done an exterior environment before,
Yeah.
I thought it was probably not smart to try to do like rapids, which, you would
Okay.
typically find in a river like this. I wanted to focus more on the tranquility and the feeling of it and get that mood across
Okay.
than spending weeks on water tech that's flowing and all. And so then I also had to think about like story for that because if you're not going to put it in, you kind of have to give a reason why. So that's why more so it's in the summer months where the snow on the mountains has dried out. And even if you go hiking around here in LA during the summer months and later into fall, most of the waterfalls and everything have dried out just because, the water's gone from the runoff from the mountains. So that's why I set it more so in that time period as well.
Got it. Okay. So what does a blockout look like for you? And what are you focused on? Are you focused on lighting? Are you focused on just models, just knowing that there's a rock here? What are the focuses for you?
First off, it would probably be composition.
Okay.
Getting down a good composition for the camera. Of
Yeah.
course, it's going to change over time as you work on the environment, but getting an initial composition that works, I think
Mhm.
helps a lot. So I did like really rough block out. They were like circles or more, a little less or a little more lumpy than circles, but and kind of just blocked out rock shapes, getting some large ones, some medium ones, your macro to micro details.
Yeah.
And then I just used, I think, cylinders for tree placement. I knew that for the actual lighting of the trees and the dappling and all, I wouldn't be able to get that until I had like the actual alphas of the tree cards and all in. But I went ahead and blocked out, I guess, lighting direction.
Hmm.
and where I wanted it to come from. And then even if you don't have those alpha cards in, you kind of just, you can block out stuff to get some general shadow shapes, I guess. And then as I moved through, I think I started next with the rocks and actually started, kind of sculpting them in ZBrush, and then move on to the foliage, and then uh, constantly readdressing lighting and composition, moving around, just playing with the camera, like fog and all that stuff.
Hmm. How are you establishing the difference between the rocks, the grass, and I think you say you're using mega scans here. So are you using are you just dropping those right in as part of the block in, or are you laying out just textures and basically a bunch of photos there? Because I know, for example, my friend Melissa she likes to lay out tiled textures everywhere, even if it looks like crap. But this way, she just knows that's grass, this is rock, this is something else.
Sometimes I'll just apply more of like a blend or like a base color to it. So
Okay.
it won't actually have any like normal or detail information on it, but it'll just be a general color like a gray or a green or a brown. And I think that helps me. But yeah, then I do sometimes go back in and I'll do that where I do a general like grass texture. And even if it's not good, it's getting a little bit more of the noise in there. So you can kind of see how dense it will be or whatnot. And then you can come back and readdress it. But you don't want like too much detail in your initial block out textures because that's going to confuse you, I think.
That makes sense. I think that would be a very valuable thing for people to see, because this is cool. We see this rock and holy crap, is this a substance you did on this?
Yeah, the rocks are
Sculpted.
sculpted in ZBrush, and then a mixture of, I brought in a little bit of detail from, I think, a normal or a height map, but I did it in Designer and did variation. And then I think I also might have painted. Oh yeah, and then I did a Leica type texture and did an alpha mask with it, and then set up a blend basically in my material for the rocks to where I could paint the Leica on certain areas. If I went back now, I would also add moss because there's no moss on the rocks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think sculpting with ZBrush and then using Designer gets you a really nice artistic touch to it instead of, just completely photo scanning a rock or something like that. You can definitely see the artist's touch on the model, especially when it comes to organic things.
All right, so we'll check out the block in. I want to make sure I get some kind of conversation on that to just see how you kind of start these things, because this finished product is so brilliant, so beautiful. It's easy to lose track of how these things start. And then I want to get back to the job, and because you've done tutorials, there's a couple of other things, and I know you can't talk a lot about Naughty Dog's process, so I just really want to talk about what you've done that you think has helped you kind of get to that level to where they consider you.
Okay, so if I drop the link in the chat,
Yep.
You'll get it, right?
Yep.
Okay,
Yep, I see it.
cool. And yeah, those are like my base block out. That's like the very first block out I did.
All right, great. So this is awesome. So you're not getting the dappling of the light in the image that you sent us, but you are getting some of the movement because it's just the foliage and the branches and whatnot. So that's cool. And you're thinking simple shapes, and you're just working on, really, I can see the thinking of composition at this point, but there's a bit of a shift. So you eventually get to this paint over phase. And what is it that you start to do with this paint over? Because it looks like you sculpted.
Yeah, it wasn't. I guess it wasn't actually a paint over. It was more of like, I don't remember why I called it paint over, but yeah, that's just a further pass on it. Basically,
Sculpt over.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a further progress. But yeah, the rocks are a little bit more sculpted, just has like, some more definition. So they look like rocks. I started playing with the hill in the background and having a lot more depth. I feel like the previous one, the whole piece in general was like, I'd consider it like a medium or like in between macro to micro. And this, I was trying to play a lot more with big to small, both in distance and everything else.
All right, so this is really cool. So we go from this kind of simple white, and really it's kind of like a warm, cool contrast thing happening here. And you traditionally paint? Like oil paint or acrylic or
Yeah, I
digital?
do oil and acrylic, and then I've also done some digital.
Do you do a la prima or more studio paintings when you do landscapes?
More studio.
So let's get back to, some of this, to your career basically. So you do your internship at Insomniac. I used to train at Insomniac quite a bit, and I always loved going there. You do your internship there. How the heck does that lead to a job at Naughty Dog then?
Yeah, the internship was quite awesome. It was last summer for like about 3 months, and it was just working on the Spider-Man team here in Burbank. It was nice because they really gave us full responsibility of making environments and all for Spider-Man. We just felt like part of the team. Didn't feel like an intern just doing like side projects or whatnot. And everyone was like super nice there and super helpful. And upon leaving, they recently wrapped up the project or whatnot and shipped it. But looking at Naughty Dog, it was over basically over my senior year of college. I think it was back in like, might have been over a year now, back in like October. But yeah, I
Yeah,
applied just because I was like, it's one of those places that I admire all the artists there
yeah.
and, the projects. And it was one of my like dream studios. So I did apply and got the art test like everyone else does, did art tests and, got feedback, did like additional work. And yeah, it was pretty seamless.
You did the art test,
Mhm.
and how long did you have to do the art test? Two
Yeah,
weeks?
can't say too much about it,
Okay.
but
Yeah,
yeah,
it's
basically,
funny. There was Melissa, who's a mentor at boot camp, work at Naughty Dog, and she just did this portfolio class. And she's like, you can't really talk about what you do with the art tests, but you can
yeah,
literally Google a Naughty Dog art test. And there's fools that, with their name, actually post their art test results. So it's like it's not a secret, but it's a secret. Like, it's wise not to talk about it,
yeah.
but you
I
can go out
mean,
there and Google it. So it's
yeah,
kind of fun. But I guess I guess the key thing for me here is, and I don't want to get you in trouble on that, but I just want to help people understand, like, what's an art test, what's involved in that, and what are the expectations. And so one of the issues people have a lot is, should I be doing this in a week, in a month? Will they tell me a time frame? So did they tell you a time frame, or did you have any sense of like how long it should take, or was this just a vague thing and you just had to work?
yeah. I would say most art tests are, I guess, generally open unless they kind of very strictly tell you how quickly they would like it turned around,
Hmm.
depending on if they're bringing on people fast or. But for me, I kind of looked at other art tests. You can search them up, find all kinds of art tests online. Some are able to be posted, some are not. But yeah, there's also like, I think you can find places where people actually describe the art tests, not
Yeah.
specific to like. So I was just looking around at different art tests and seeing how long people
Yeah.
like on ArtStation would write, like how long they did one for this studio or that studio. And I just got a general feel. And I was like, maybe like 3 to 4 weeks, I think would be good because that's not
Hmm.
too quickly, I think, for an environment, but it's not too long.
Yeah.
And I think more so with an art test, if they don't immediately tell you how quickly they need to turn around, besides, you can spend more than like a week or 2 weeks on it, I think, and just making it as good as possible and look as high quality as you can as an artist because you want the art test to reflect what your skills are. So instead of rushing on it, really taking your time, and if it takes like a week or 2 weeks or even 3 weeks longer, if they message you asking, you can ask for more time. Sometimes, you might not want to do that. But yeah, I think it really comes down to just making it as high quality as possible in a decent amount of time.
Were you worried that you were going too slow, or did you feel like you had you're confident in your approach?
Yeah, well, I guess like when you're applying to places and all,
Yeah. Yeah.
you feel like if you haven't talked to them for a week, then they forgot about you, and that's like with every place. So of course, it's those jittery feelings. So yeah, I was like 3 4 weeks in, I was like, oh, like I should try to finish this up, but I want to spend more time on it, and it's a constant battle, but maybe taking a day or two off and then coming back to it and looking at it and seeing if you're still satisfied with some of the work. Because I think giving your eyes a rest from a piece, if you're constantly working on it every day, you're not going to be able to see the problems with it. So I think if you are having that issue where you're like, is it good enough to send? Is it not? I don't know. Then yeah, maybe taking like a short break from it might help with that as well. But yeah, and every studio is different with the art tests. And they're all different with the descriptions and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm. So I want to talk a little bit about your work and how you get such a painterly quality to it. And I want to understand if there's any software that's kind of involved in that. Because, when I'm looking at your work, you say you work traditionally as well, and it shows, but how? If we're looking at, either the wood barn, or if we're looking at the conservatory interior or the conservatory exterior, right? Is it fog? Like, let's take a look at this. If we take a look at the workshop. So this has a very painterly quality, and I don't even really know what that means as I say that, right? It's just, yeah, but it has it. Do you understand what I mean by that?
Yeah. I guess I'm trying to think, but I would say mostly the things that I guess program wise and all that occur most on the ones that you're talking about having that painterly feel.
Yeah.
Things that feel most painterly are the ones that are actually done in ZBrush and Designer.
Because interesting.
Yeah, like the foliage, because I did that foliage tutorial, but the foliage is actually in my protege thesis that I did with two of my fellow classmates. But like with the foliage itself, it was all sculpted in ZBrush. The leaves were. And then for the colors, I brought them into Designer and basically got the color information and all and set up my subsurface and all in Designer. Okay. But having a normal and a height from ZBrush, I think is a lot softer than, of course, like photo scan stuff or like a photo or anything. And it can also sometimes be, if you look at a ZBrush like material compared to Designer material, okay, the fully procedural can also still have a grainy effect compared to some of the like sculpted ZBrush textures that you see.
Okay. And when we're talking, so there's definitely some quality in terms of mixing ZBrush and Substance. When you're lighting these, this is in Unreal, am I right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is in Unreal. I think this one was like 412 or so.
How important is lighting to an environment artist? Let me just start with that question.
I mean, if you don't have lighting, then like no matter how good your textures are or your models are, it's not going to work. I think it's one of the most important things, I think, for an environment because it sells the whole scene. Like even as a texture artist, you're constantly working with your lighter just because like specularity and all that stuff really has to like in your roughness just has to like really sell. And if the lighting's not helping that texture, it doesn't matter how good your map is. But yeah, with this one, there wasn't volumetric fog yet in Unreal, but there's one directional light, I believe, that's just coming through the window. I used the temperature setting, I think, to get the color that I wanted for the lighting.
Do you work with a cooler outdoor light, like a cooler skylight and a warmer reflective light, or?
I think it might have been like just a medium, like daytime light. Oh, one thing I guess for like the bounce thing is, well, for this one, it was kind of different than the other ones, but there's different tricks you can do to get softer shadows with some of your settings. And I think that definitely helps a lot with your baking settings. It's been a while, so there's a guy on, I believe, YouTube that has really good with all this lighting stuff in Unreal. It's like Koala or whatnot.
Oh, Kamal.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've had Kamal in to talk to our people. He's actually in Artist Awake. Dude knows so much.
He has some render settings that he suggests. And even if you use the low ones that he uses, because some of them can take a day or two to bake a scene, but some of the lower ones will just help your scene because it's basically just getting more bounce in there. And then I also used bounce cards with this one. So they were like invisible, but they're like white cards basically. And you can put like a spotlight facing them and they'll bounce the light off that white, like flat plane. And it'll give you a much softer, like I guess, almost like a atmospheric light or skylight. And that's how you're able to see like some of the light that you see going up in the rafters and all. Like that yellow light is basically just a little bit more of the bounce and all. And then I do occasionally use some spotlights or point lights to help influence areas, I guess, of my piece.
Mm-hmm.
Like the light that was coming through the rafters at the top, I wasn't actually getting that much light through those cracks. So I had to influence that, like the blue white light that's hitting the metal and the wood, by adding like a spotlight up there with the blue color.
Okay, that's awesome. All right, so we've been chatting for a bit, and I don't want to take up too much of your time, but we didn't quite answer the question of like, how did it basically transpire, that you go from an internship at Insomniac to Naughty Dog? And if I understand correctly, you said you applied for Naughty Dog while you were still in school, and then were you in school during the internship as well, or no?
Well, we were out for summer break. Basically, they had 2 semesters. They have like the fall and the spring, and we're out for summer break. So it was a 3-month long internship during my summer break after my junior year. So it was in between my junior year and senior year. And then my senior year, I applied to Naughty Dog, and it was pretty seamless. Just,
What
I guess,
do you think caught their attention?
For Naughty Dog or the internship?
No, for Naughty Dog. For Naughty Dog.
I would say just having an eye for your work, not just not filling your art station up with just every single thing you make, but having a professional presentation of your stuff. Because even if you make good things, if you don't present it, I think, right, then it can look amateur or it can look not as good. So I think, your screenshots, how they're presented, composition, all that definitely helps a lot.
That's a really great point, because when I'm looking at your site, like it looks, everything's very well. You've got a couple of Substance Designer, shader balls, but otherwise you have complete scenes that show that you have spent that time, that month to 2 months on your piece.
Yeah, when I actually like compile stuff to, put in portfolio or whatnot, that's, a couple of days in itself, finding right compositions, getting feedback on my compositions, trying out different cameras, cropping them in Photoshop, flipping them, just, collecting so many things. And then you just slowly because I'll take like probably 100 screenshots and then filter through and maybe grab like 5 to 10. Because also when you're presenting something, you don't want to, each shot that you have, you want to tell new information with it. And if you're just showing the same thing, like the plane or like a tree or something, and it's the exact same angle, but like slightly moved to the right or something, that's not adding anything new. And, that screenshot might hurt you because it might be a worse composition or something.
Got it. All right. And you do training now, right? You're putting together tutorials and stuff like that?
Yeah, so I did the foliage tutorial basically just because I didn't see much out there about, I guess, foliage, especially like for Unreal Engine. And I know when I was doing it, at least for Protege, there wasn't too much I could find on it. So I basically, everything that I learned from different things and techniques and just practicing and all that stuff, I tried to compile it in an easy to understand thing for beginners or people that haven't really tried foliage yet, because sometimes it can be a lot to take in, I guess.
Yeah.
So I want it to be digestible.
You're not new to teaching. You were a teaching assistant. This has been something you've been doing for a bit. Yeah.
Yeah, I did some teaching assisting at Ringling. Yeah, basically I like sharing my information that I learn and helping other people out, because at Ringling, my thesis partners and my friends and like all my close friends and stuff, we all helped each other out and taught each other. And I think that's like huge, is like making sure that you have if you can, like a place that you can go to talk to people and give feedback and share what you know and build off of each other. Because, we all had our things that we were good at, and we would share that with each other and basically just grow together. It's almost like competitive atmosphere, but it's a
Yeah.
Friendly competitive, not cutthroat competitive. Like you're not trying to better the other person. You're all trying to grow together.
Yeah. You're not trying to beat them. You're trying to be
Yeah.
a little, a little better. I don't want to like beat them in the ground, but
yeah. Well, like with that, because like for my internship, one of my close friends, his name's Steve Hong. He's also one of my thesis partners, but we both applied for the Insomniac internship, and there's only one position. So, but it was never. We helped each other out with like resumes, and we helped each other out with everything else, and we both applied, and they actually like made a second position, and we both went there just
no
because
way.
we liked both of us. Yeah. So
oh man, I was gonna ask if you got to go nah, but that's like even better.
Yeah, because we helped each other out, and it was kind of rewarding to see that as well as like instead of trying to kick each other down or whatnot and win it over, then instead you both grow as an artist. Whoever gets it congratulations. But in the end, it was really awesome and a humbling experience to both have the opportunity.
That's awesome. All right. Well, I want to thank you. And I think there's a couple of students that would really love to have your opinion. So we'll say goodbye to the podcast audience about right now. And if you don't mind, I'd love to show you some student work and get your feedback on that. Do you have like another 5-10 minutes?
Oh, yeah, sure.
And we will start with Joseph. And you guys can see from my screen, you can see how you can get a hold of Peyton and get his. So make sure you head over here, follow him, so that you can be up to date on all of the stuff that he's doing. Also, if you head to the About page or if you head to the store, because ArtStation now has a marketplace, you can see a couple of things in there. On his Gumroad, if you head over there, you'll actually see the foliage tutorial that's for free, and then there's the Substance Designer material. So we'll start here with Joseph. This is Joseph's scene. He's been working on this for a bit. So when we look at people's work, the way that I like to do this is just talk about like the one or a couple of things that you think are working and that make him a candidate for the job, and then the things that are not making him a candidate for the job. You can start with any one you want, but I like to keep everything kind of focused on like this will help you get a job, this will not help you get a job.
Okay. It's the forest one, correct?
Forest one, yeah. The house in the tree.
Yeah. Is there any like theme or story description or like I guess ideas, or are they basically just creating this from scratch?
Joseph, you're welcome to, and anybody here, welcome to turn your on. But it's Zelda Twilight Princess fan art.
Okay. I don't remember which. It's been a long time since I looked at like Twilight Princess, but yeah, with story wise, I'm liking the building. Oh, that one's cool.
Which one?
That shot. Is this his as well, or is this reference, or are these the same environment?
Same environment, yeah, just different position.
Yeah. Okay, the lighting and the shot here, I feel looks a lot more like realistic than the previous shot. It might be because there's less fog in this one. And then also your previous one, there's a lot of ground that's just empty and open, and it's taking up like 25% of your composition, but there's nothing there for my eye to look at. But yeah, this one's starting to work out really well.
All right. So in this first image, composition, not so much, and the fog is probably detracting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
This is a little bit better, and I think in terms of the composition and the lighting, and it looks a little bit more succinct. Is there anything here in this image that is like a no go, which is showing you it's amateur time?
The bark and the tree, I feel, is a little low poly, or the texture itself could be improved. Just because if it's a tree that large, then you're going to have a lot more detail with the bark and just how this tree has been wrapping around the little hut or whatnot. And I think when a root like this happens, especially with that age, the longer the tree has lived, the bigger the splits are, basically.
Okay.
I don't know if I'm describing that right. But yeah, just having more detail in the tree itself. And then maybe getting some skylight over in the background, like some blue skylight. and
Got it.
maybe on the left side as well.
All right, that makes a lot of sense. And so this tree and this house inside this tree is looking a little like phoned in. It's just kind of placed in there a little too simply. You'd like this to be figured out and for there to be nodules and a bunch of different stuff going on. And is that kind of accurate?
Yeah, looking at some of the larger like trunks or trees that have been around
Yeah.
for a long time and seeing
Yeah.
like all the just basically all this stuff that's going on there.
Okay, great. All right, Joseph, any questions? Shout them out and we'll go from there. But you got a sense this is the one the scene that you got. It sounds like it's probably wise to go back to the bark, try your substance first, and then go through and see if you've got to change your sculpt in ZBrush, but see what you can do in substance to just add a little bit more. Probably both, actually. All right, let's get to the next
one more.
Yes.
Oh, no, I was just going to say one more thing is maybe just not have the, for this composition at least, not have the hut in the middle of the shot. So maybe moving it over to the right a little bit. So basically turning your camera left, I guess, just a tad. Because when you put it right in the middle, it's just a flat wall that your eyes like stop straight on. And if it's over to the side a little bit, your eyes can kind of flow through a little bit more to the piece.
Oh, right. Image from Kyle. So this was one of the prop exercises that we did inside of the boot camp. And the goal here is to just create some kind of simple element and focus on the materials and not get to just try to work on the materials. That's it. With that done and said, this was the final image.
Cool. Yeah, the lighting's really awesome. I'm liking the lighting and the mood that you're trying to sell. It makes me feel like one of those old, like the shacks, like, like the Witcher type things, where you walk in and it's just like very like old and you can basically like feel the air, I guess, the density in it. It's like a map and a compass book.
All right. So yeah, map and compass, here's a scene. So is there anything that he needs to do or what can he do to help make this scene better for positioning him for a job?
Pushing the wood and the table, I think, a lot more, with it being like this older feeling. I don't think that the boards would be a perfectly like cut edge on the ends. I think you can see it a lot more in the lower shot. But yeah, they're like very cleanly placed and they're all very like parallel and perfect. And I think with one of these tables, I don't know how old it would be, but you'd have a lot more bowing. Some ends might be slightly longer. You might have a nail sticking out. Basically just trying to put more story in there because you already do have like some of the story with the notebook and the compass. And I can see that it's like this navigational like desk or whatnot, but just having a little bit more story in the like with the table as well. Can you scroll down some more?
Yeah. You mean just get to the model or?
Yeah, like here you can see that the wood table in the bottom right, it's like a very just cut clean thing. And then you might even want to, I don't know if this is like a designer material the table is, but you could also slightly separate the boards so there's some space in between them if you'd like. But yeah, mainly just maybe getting some nails in there and all that.
Cool. Okay, so I know environment's your thing, but this is Rashid. And let me see, Rashid, where's your prop? All right, so this is the prop he did.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
I think that's probably the better, any one of those two views will work. And then he decided he wanted to go the Blizzard style, so this is the character.
Okay.
And then we've got the model, and then here's the prop.
Okay.
So let me lock on this image for you, and then I can go to this. So I guess just, the things that you think are really working and things that you think are not working in either one of those things.
So the light thing, I don't know what it is. Do you know what it is?
He'll tell us here in a second, but it was something very specific. It's from Pacific Rim.
Okay.
So it was something inside Pacific Rim. The movie.
Yeah, I can tell it's something mechanical. I don't recall the actual prop, but I think the spec's working pretty well on the lights themselves. The model feels, believable. I don't see any like much faceting. There's you can see a little bit of the low poly on the left side in that corner where it's not like super smooth, but besides that, it looks really well done. roughness and all is also working.
Right there.
Yeah. Yeah. But besides that, like
Okay.
the modeling's nice. I don't know if it's like baked or whatnot. It might be a high poly. So
Yeah, this is the low res, if I remember correctly. Hopefully, yeah, of course, because we're looking at the substance. We're
okay.
looking at marmoset. So yeah.
Yeah, that's working well then. I like the chains like hanging down. I guess since I don't know what it is, maybe having it just, I guess for like portfolio's sake, maybe having it in some form of like context of what it is, or
Mm,
whether, I don't know if it like attaches to a wall or sits on a table or something, but that might help as well. Putting it in some sort of a context, especially since it's a prop that people can't readily familiarize themselves with.
okay.
Thankfully, there are materials that they can familiarize themselves. But when someone's looking at your portfolio, they want to be able to, if it's something like this, they want to be able to maybe relate to it. So they're like, oh, yeah, that does look like what it looks like in real life.
Right.
Yeah. So
Okay. And then any thoughts on the character?
I guess because Blizzard's like pretty open, each team kind of has a different look as to like, how they model things or whatnot. So I don't know if it's like World of Warcraft or it could be also like an Overwatch style. But the only reason I was saying that is for like your wireframe, because I think the World of Warcraft ones are like super low, like polys, but the Overwatch ones are a lot higher, just because the updates and the games and all over time. But yeah, the presentation's working really well here. You have it like in this environment. The textures are nice. I like the grime and all at the bottom of his things. One thing I have noticed with characters is if they're put in poses. Well, do you have one up top, right, with the pose?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think like pose shots definitely work a lot more for portfolio because it's giving personality to the character. Because one of the most important things with the character, I think, is showing that you can make a character that has a good silhouette, but also like that someone can animate easily
Mhm.
because it's going to be moving in a game. So having good topology is super important with characters. Pretty low res, so when they're rigging it and all, and then also poses help to show that like you don't have geo easily crashing into each other like in the armpits or stuff, and it gives personality to the character, I think.
Awesome. All right. Sari. Sari wants to be, her focus is environment arts as well. So we can start here. And, the question is really, what should she be focusing on now to help her get that job? Should she be shifting and moving into environments? Should she be continuing props? What's your thoughts on this model as well?
Yeah, especially if you're wanting to be like a environment artist, I definitely think starting to transition into making environments would be beneficial for when you're creating your portfolio and moving forward. Because with all the props and everything, it tells that you can make separate pieces that look believable and they look good. But I don't necessarily know whether or not that you can actually make a full environment and sell the mood or sell the feeling or the story that someone might look for in an environment. And that's the only downside to only showing props. It's like a one off basically. And I need to be able to see that you can take all these props that you can make. Like if they're all like really nice props, I need to be able to see that you can bring them into an environment and put them together and like sell something basically.
And what do you think is really working about this model? And maybe something that you think that's not working?
Yeah, the leather's working well. I like the texture. It feels believable. You could add more wear depending on how the leather is and what type of leather it is, but
Hmm.
the texture itself is nice. For presentation wise, there might be too many shots on this one piece. You might want to break it up a little more, have like 3 or 4 renders per thing, just because that way people can see it larger and see more up close details like your embellishments and stuff. And then also, I would maybe be careful because I don't know if you're setting it up to be like a game ready prop, which might be nice to show off like the low poly. And if so, like this one here for game ready, like 11,000 would probably be pretty high quad wise because I think that's what 20,000 tries. So that would be pretty high for a model to be in game. So yeah.
Okay. So we can look at this material from Mustafa, and then we can take a quick look at any advice that you have for Lawrence, because he's in the process. He's done an enormous amount of work. Lawrence, I thought you did more than this. You've done. He's building the props and all that
Okay.
stuff. So right now he's just getting he's got some basic siding and setup, and he's done the materials here. So before we get to Lawrence, thoughts on this? So there's a couple of things not working in this, but if you were to just give somebody quick advice on what they would need to improve, what do you think is
I would say
should
first
be
things
done?
first is presentation with the fog. I think that's being added. I think it's either a fog or a post processing. It's getting this like I can't really see the details, and it's
Yeah,
like easing out everything. And with materials, I've noticed like with presentation, getting the strong contrast of lighting really helps sells your normal map and your height map and all. And I don't know if this is rendered in Marmoset or Unreal, but I would say mainly presentation. It looks like
okay.
the brick's starting to get there, but
But the fog is killing it.
yeah, can you go one more over? Yeah, that middle one. Yeah, the it's this one's starting to work a little more because you're getting more, especially when it's just the material. Getting those shadows really helps sells the material, and it basically happens when you have like strong contrast and lighting, like very dynamic light from one angle, and it's working here. But yeah, the fog's still killing it.
Got it. Great. All right. And with Lawrence, so he's doing his high res right now, but he's a little unsure on what he should do in terms of the lighting scheme.
Okay, so this looks like a train interior, like one of
Hmm.
those little like luxury trains. I don't know if you'll
Yeah.
have chairs or not. Looks like there might be a bench and a couch. That's what I'm
Yeah.
reading.
Yeah. Like this is so there'll be the bench. There's going to
Cool.
be
Yeah,
cabinetry, and then small
that'll look
little
cool.
chairs. Yeah. There we go. That's another angle, so you can kind of see it.
Yeah, that'll be cool. Lighting wise, yeah, they had. I don't know what time frame you're looking at, but I think the older ones they used to actually have like those, like the oil lamps basically, and they would have them actually like gold embellished oil lamp holders that would go on the sides of them. I think I would have to look up like reference and all, but that's not necessarily. But you wouldn't want to have all of them lit. You would maybe want to have a couple of them lit just so you could have. Trying to think, and it's nighttime.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could. I think it would be cool to get some of the moonlight from the outside come through.
Mm.
Take out some of the actual lights in here, and maybe only have like two or three, so it's like a darker feeling. But you have a lot of like skylight or atmospheric light, and then you have your moonlight coming in. I'm thinking of a trailer that had it really well, but yeah, there's just that glow, and maybe you can even get like a fog shaft or something coming through the window too. But yeah, I think much lower light would help this scene.
Cool. That makes sense. So try a little lower light, reduce the lights, and see what you can get for light coming through the interior or from the outside, sorry, into the interior.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, guys, let's call this a day. It's quite late here. And so make sure you can head over to Art Station, and Peyton's is just Peyton Varney. That's the English way of saying it.
Yeah,
Sorry.
there you go.
Varney, Peyton Varney. And then you can get to his Gumroad there where you can learn, he's got tutorials, and he's also got some substance designer materials he's sharing with you there. And on the tutorial, he puts his Gmail right there. So that's actually going to be his undoing.
Which
But
one?
you guys know where to find him, your
Oh
art
yeah, that's
station.
fine. Yeah, you can contact me if need be through ArtStation or the Gmail. Either works.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge, and for for just being willing to kind of share and have this conversation. I know you're early in your career. Just I love the work, and there's such a sense of art to it, not just CG but actual art. So
Thank you.
I'm quite grateful you took the time to talk to us.
So thank you for having me. It really has been an honor. I was, yeah,
Awesome.
just really excited. So thank
Thanks,
you.
guys.
It was nice talking to you.
All right. So I want to thank you so much for being here, for taking the time, and for listening to this podcast. And I want to ask a couple of things from you. Number one, make sure you leave a comment or you rate this on iTunes, Stitcher, wherever it is that you're getting this. That's going to make a big difference in helping us get the word out and get people to know who we are. All right. The other thing is I want to make sure you know where to find us. So you can head over to www.gameartinstitute.com, where you can learn about our flagship program, which is the Game Artist Bootcamp. This is designed for those who are really looking to move the needle on their career and really lock in that job. You may have gone to school and learned a bunch, maybe haven't learned a bunch. But at the Game Art Institute, the primary focus we have is the very specific industry skills, the triggers that you really need to hit in that job interview. What are the specific things that they're looking for? That's what we're going to be training you on. We're taking applications right now for environment artists and for character artists. So make sure you head over to www.gameartinstitute.com and apply today. That way we can have that conversation, make sure this is a fit for you, make sure that you're a fit for it, and if everything is perfect, then we will sign you up for that right away and get you into your training and start moving the needle on your career. All right, thank you so much again for being here. Take care, have an amazing day.